Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech. Now, let's face it, 2020 has been a pretty bad year so far, but there are some things to look forward to, like the next-gen consoles, HDMI 2.1 TVs, and receivers like this to bring it all together. It's one of the first HDMI 2.1 receivers out there, and in this video, we're going to unbox it and go over it, so stick around. Now you can see just a few of the codecs that this receiver supports. So it has HEOS, Dolby Atmos, IMAX Enhanced, IMAX DTS, DTSX, DTSX Virtual, Oro 3D, and it has the most advanced version of Odyssey Multi-EQ XT32. Supports 8K, HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision, and HDR10 and HLG naturally. Alright. See what's inside. First up, we have the remote control. Then we have the bag with the antennas and cable labeling. This is for Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and this is for AM/FM. Next up is the quick start guide, the rocket shuttle calibration mic stand, power cable, and finally batteries and the Odyssey calibration mic with a mounting hole at the bottom. Smells like new circuits. Not much has changed externally. All these 6 HDMI inputs can only accept up to a 4K 60 signal, while the 7th one is the one where you can get the full 2.1 bandwidth of 8K 60 or 4K 120. But both main outputs actually support full 2.1 bandwidth, so you can have 4K 60 or 8K on either of these. Monitor 2, I believe, supports up to 4K 60 as well. We have the network interface, all the speaker terminals, of course, your pre-outs for if you're attaching an external amplifier, your zone 2, which could be a completely different signal. You have your analog inputs, including phono, your ground, FM, as well as your 2 spots for your antenna. The Denon AVR-X4700H AVR is a 9-channel AVR but processes up to 11.2 channels. It provides 120 watts per channel into 2 channels driven and supports Dolby Vision, HDR10, HLG, and new for 2020 HDR10 Plus pass-through. It has 8 HDMI ports, with 7 providing HDMI 2.0 bandwidth, while 1 provides full HDMI 2.1 48 gigabits per second bandwidth, but has 2 output ports which provide the full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth. It supports ALLM, auto low latency mode, VRR, variable refresh rate, and QFT, quick frame transport for gaming. It has the built-in Odyssey Multi-EQ XT32, their most advanced version, and supports Alexa and Apple AirPlay too. And of course supports Dolby Atmos, DTSX, IMAX Enhanced, and Oro 3D, as well as other sound formats. So if you've seen the setup of any Denon receiver, then you know exactly what to expect here. It's exactly the same for 99% of it. It walks you through everything from determining how many speakers you have in your setup to determining how you want to power them, whether you want to assign the internal amps of the receiver or connect an external amplifier. It even takes you through how to connect the speakers to the banding posts and then calibrating said speakers once they're connected. So you have the speaker calibration and the subwoofer calibration. And one difference that this has is it asks you if you have an 8K device, an 8K or a 4K 120 device, in which case it would be attached to the 8K compatible HDMI 2.1 port. But besides that, setup is as straightforward as it's ever been. And when you're in the process of setting up your receiver, if you get this, then make sure that you use as many of the Odyssey calibration points as possible, because the more spots you use, the more accurate the calibration will be. But with this receiver, I think Denon is more concerned with supporting some specific feature sets than the hardware per se, and I'll explain what I mean in a second, because it supports all the flavors of HDR now. So before it didn't have support for HDR10 Plus, and now it does, which is great for people with QLED TVs and people who have, say, Vizio TVs that support all flavors of HDR. And of course, it supports things like VRR and quick frame transport and auto low latency mode. But the HDMI 2.1, which I would think would be the headline feature of this device, is only supported by one HDMI port. So even though it's an HDMI 2.1 receiver, you can only get that full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 feature set with one of the 8 HDMI inputs. But even though the receiver is down here for the moment, I'll be bringing it upstairs so I could test it with the TVs I'm reviewing. So right now I have the Q90T QLED TV, which I'm reviewing. So I'll be testing that with it to see how well it supports HDR10 Plus and if it also supports pass-through of FreeSync on all the HDMI ports and not necessarily only the HDMI 2.1 port. So definitely subscribe for that if you haven't already, because I think it's important to do a bunch of tests on this receiver to see if it's really ready for the next generation consoles. Because even though the next gen consoles may not have 4K 120 games around launch time, or maybe a while after that for that matter, I still want to test how it performs in 4K 60. So whether we have FreeSync available there, or even at 1440p at 120 Hz to see if it can do that with those same features. So make sure to stick around for those details, which will be in my full review. I'll also be using the receiver to facilitate some of the other TV comparisons I'll be doing, like the Q90T versus the LG OLED comparison and the Vizio OLED that's also upcoming. This will be playing a key role in those comparisons, just to see how well the TVs perform and this perform in that whole process. So make sure to subscribe for all of that, and make sure to visit the merch store for awesome t-shirts like this and this. I've left links in the description if you want to check it out some more or even buy one. And let me know in the comments in the meantime what you think about this receiver, and if there are any specific tests that you want to see me do, and let me know and I'll do my best to make it happen. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood Villaman saying be safe and peace.